If you've ever achieved something truly significant, I mean, chances are you've received that ultimate compliment, right?
Oh, yeah.
Someone comes up to you and says, wow, you are so hardworking, or maybe your discipline is just unbelievable.
And that's the gold standard in the West, isn't it? It's this equation that says grit plus hustle plus a whole lot of suffering equals your reward.
Exactly. We're just culturally programmed to hear that and feel this rush of validation.
If you succeed, the assumption is you just, you put in more hours and suffered more than the next guy.
Absolutely. But we've been really deep in the sources for this dive. And the central idea we found is what's shocking. For some of these high achievers, that feedback, it never felt like a compliment at all.
Not at all.
In fact, one source suggests that for them, it's a complete lie, a kind of cultural manipulation. They actually call it a psychological operation, a psyop.
And that's really the mission of this deep dive today. We are challenging that fundamental Western story, the one that connects struggle and long hours directly to success.
Right.
Our source material argues that success isn't really a function of linear time and effort. It's based on strategic choice, finding leverage, and this is crucial, profound alignment.
So we are analyzing excerpts from thinkers who, they basically trashed the traditional idea of hard work.
They do.
And instead, they propose that true achievement comes from, identifying the right target and aligning your life with a meaningful mission.
We're going to show you why success in this modern age isn't about constant low-level effort, what one source calls grazing.
Grazing. I like that.
It's about finding that fulcrum, that high-leverage input that gives you massive disproportionate returns. We really need to unpack this idea of nonlinear effort.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this and get right to the core thesis because it's extremely provocative.
It is.
The source details their own journey and just flat out states that they achieve success not through hard work or discipline, but by being, and this is a quote, lazy, and by recognizing that life is, quote, extremely nonlinear. That just flies in the face of everything we've been taught since we were kids.
The entire foundation of their argument is this disproportionate returns concept.
Okay.
If you look closely at any massive success, a breakthrough product, a famous novel, a huge financial win, it rarely came from thousands of hours of, evenly distributed effort.
Right. It's never just a straight line.
The sources all highlight that success almost always comes from a tiny portion of inputs that yielded the vast majority of the results.
So we're talking about the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, but maybe on steroids.
Exactly. The source argues that in our current age of infinite leverage with technology and code and global communication, that 80-20 rule now skews wildly toward 909-1.
99-1.
Think about it. An hour spent manually moving boxes versus an hour spent writing a piece of software that can serve millions of people automatically.
The leverage is just astronomical.
Yeah.
One piece of focused input to code has returns that you could never, ever match with thousands of hours of manual labor.
And that's the point. This makes choosing the right thing to work on, the right lever, the most critical decision you can make. Your effort is basically wasted if it's applied to a low-leverage target.
Which means you have to prioritize intention over just sheer volume of input.
You have to.
And I think nothing illustrates this better than the blue-collar paradox analogy this source uses. It's really striking. It forces you to confront some pretty uncomfortable truths.
It really does. So picture the two figures they present. On one side, you've got the owner of the local laundromat.
Okay.
And he's working a 12-hour shift folding clothes. That is visible, physical, exhausting, hard work by any definition we have.
No question. And then you have the other image, the day trader, who's rolling out of bed, logging onto the markets, and making his yearly salary before grabbing a morning coffee.
The physical effort is almost zero, but the intellectual and leveraged effort is immense.
So the source asks this really critical, kind of uncomfortable question.
Yeah.
If the cultural mantra working hard is the key, if that was really the answer, why don't we have a blue-collar aristocracy?
Right. Why aren't the day laborers and the landscapers shaping the world's economy and future?
It's the opposite. The people who get those disproportionate returns are often the ones the source calls the lazy tech guys with soft hands.
Or the college dropouts who built the platforms we're all using right now.
And you see it historically, right? The kings and emperors who basically invented the 4-hour work week by just focusing on big strategic decisions.
The claim is that the intelligent few have always seen through the scam of hard work right away. It's not that they cracked some secret code, they just chose maximum leverage over maximum input.
So if that 991 rule is real, it forces a complete shift in how you approach your day. Which brings us to the recommended working style, right? Moving from that grazing mentality to something more predatory.
Yes, we're talking about identifying with the lion, not the livestock.
The lion, not the livestock.
It's a reference to Naval Ravikant's advice, which the source quotes that we should work more like lions than the livestock.
I love that framing.
Yeah.
It just instantly changes how you think about your time. The livestock, the grazers, they put in 16 hours of low-level, continuous effort.
Just moving slowly from one task to the next. But the lion model is totally different. The lion doesn't graze.
No.
It rests, it reserves its energy. And when it acts with a maximum high-intensity focus to achieve the kill, the one high-return task.
Sprints of productive work, followed by days of leisure and rest.
Exactly. High-intensity action, then necessary recovery. It's a completely different rhythm.
It sounds almost counterintuitive in our sort of hustle culture, but it emphasizes that quality and intensity, applied strategically, just beat sheer volume every time.
And this concept, it actually has these deep, almost philosophical roots that the source gets into.
Okay.
The source pulls in this profound quote from William Blake's The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, and Blake observes, "The fox provides for himself, but God provides for the lion."
So the fox is the cunning, busy one, always hustling, always focused on small, constant gains.
Precisely. The lion, on the other hand, trusts that the big, high-leverage sprint will be enough to sustain him through the rest period. Then Blake delivers the key insight for this whole approach. Improvement makes straight roads, but the crooked roads without improvement are roads of genius.
The straight road is the predictable grind, the incremental improvement. A 10% gain this year, 10% next year.
Yeah.
It's safe, but it's slow.
And the crooked road, that's the unpredictable, non-linear path of leverage,
Right.
of sudden, massive returns. The genius is in choosing that crooked road, the difficult, unconventional path that gets you those 991 results.
So the source sort of frames this as a choice for you, the listener. It's a bit provocative, but they put it as Chad Lion or Virgin Fox.
Yeah, it's a stark way of asking if you're choosing leveraged bursts of genius or just constant low-return busy work.
The framework just instantly tells you which inputs are going to matter the most.
It's the ones that give you the biggest non-linear leap, not the ones that just eat up the most time.
But this all raises a huge question. I mean, if this leveraged approach is the historical path of genius and kings, why is the glorification of suffering and the daily grind so central to our culture?
Right.
This is where it gets really interesting.
The source makes a really strong claim here, that the glorification of suffering is, quite literally, a form of propaganda.
Propaganda.
And they argue it didn't start with some ancient wisdom. They peg its rise right around the beginning of the Industrial Revolution.
So it was less of a philosophical principle and more just an economic necessity.
According to this material, entirely. The goal of this cultural shift was to create what the source bluntly calls an enthusiastic slave class.
An enthusiastic slave class. Wow.
I mean, think about what industrial labor required. Long, mindless, repetitive tasks on an assembly line. That kind of work is fundamentally opposed to the human spirit.
Of course. A skilled craftsman takes pride in their work and its variety. An assembly line worker has to suppress all of that for 12 hours a day.
Exactly. The elite needed those independent minds to voluntarily surrender their nature. They needed people to don the yoke themselves, to believe that the monotony was noble.
That it was building character.
Right, when the source argues there is no nobility in self-suppression.
This calls back perfectly to the original myth of pointless labor, doesn't it? Sisyphus, pushing that rock up the hill over and over, just for it to roll back down.
And we have to remember, in the myth, that monotonous labor was Sisyphus's punishment. It was never meant to be a path to happiness or nobility.
So if we're constantly forcing ourselves into that kind of soul-crushing work in the name of discipline,
we're basically choosing a punishment that was never meant to be aspirational.
So let's bring this into the present day. We have these huge modern figures, David Goggins, Jocko Willink, Alex Hormozy, who are constantly advocating for the grind.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
And they're venerated as these high priests of effort by the platforms we use, which the source calls the algorithmic archons.
It's a fascinating critique. The source suggests that these platforms, the algorithms, they love the grind because it delivers reliable, emotional content. But it's only a comfortable half-truth for the masses struggling in their 9-to-5s.
The contradiction is in the language, isn't it? These guys use powerful words like sacrifice and eat shit to describe the path to success. The follower hears suffering and thinks that the pain itself is the goal.
But here's the key distinction, the crucial insight the source offers. For them, the effort is not suffering.
It's not.
It's transcendence. It's pure flow. When Goggins runs 100 miles, he's not miserable in the same way an unaligned office worker is miserable on a Monday morning.
So the difference isn't the amount of effort they're putting in. It's the feeling, the alignment behind that effort.
Precisely. The source notes that a 100-mile race looks like torture to most. But for Goggins, it's transcendence. He's not grinding against his deepest nature. He is completely aligned with his mission. He's in a flow state.
Which brings us to what might be the most important definition from all the sources. Effort is an effect of working on a meaningful mission.
It's a byproduct, the natural output, not the goal you have to chase.
You don't need to force yourself to grind when you're operating in that kind of alignment. The effort just happens.
It's what happens when you fully engage with the thing that excites you most.
I'm thinking of the basketball-obsessed teenager analogy they use.
It's perfect.
He doesn't set an alarm to force himself to train. He'll shoot thousands of shots all day. He'll forget to eat. He'll beg to keep going, and he does it all with a big smile.
That kid is putting in immense effort, way more than most adults put into their jobs. But he's not working hard in that traditional sense of resistance. The mission itself, mastering the game, is giving him this limitless wellspring of energy, fueling its own fulfillment. That's the upward spiral.
So if you are constantly having to force your nose to the grindstone, if it's all pain and suffering, the source says you are simply in the wrong vehicle.
Hard work, defined as misery and resistance, is only necessary when you are resisting your nature. When you're aligned, the effort flows. If you're miserable, you are fundamentally misaligned.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Trying to find that 991 leverage point. What's the practical takeaway?
Well, the source insists that the path forward requires you to architect your life with intention.
Intention is the compass.
Exactly. And this goes back to the very word discipline. The source reminds us that it comes from the root word disciple, which means follower.
And you can't be a follower unless something is leading you.
Precisely. You need a mission that is so compelling that you just automatically follow its direction. The ultimate instruction is not push harder, it's let your mission pull you forward.
You don't push the rock, you're pulled by what's at the top of the hill.
Yes.
This whole philosophy feels like such a necessary counterpoint to that narrative of quiet suffering. The source even brings in that famous quote from Thoreau's Civil Disobedience to show what's at stake.
It's a powerful one. Thoreau observed that the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. And he noted that this unconscious despair is concealed even under what are called the games and amusements of mankind. There is no play in them.
That is just so heavy. He's saying that if your life isn't aligned, even your hobbies, your free time, it's not truly free. It's just another escape from the misery of the grind.
There's no real joy in it. And that desperation, according to these sources, is just the feeling of resisting your nature. It's the feeling of pushing that Sisyphus rock.
The cure is alignment.
It's alignment.
And once you connect with that worthy mission, a path that allows for leveraged input and feels like transcendence, not torture, the source promises you'll never work another day of your life.
So the final thought for you to chew on is this. If monotonous labor was Sisyphus's punishment, what mission could you embrace that would turn your deepest effort into pure transcendence and flow?
It's a deep question.
It forces you to look at everything. Which way, Western man, are you opting for the high leverage intensity of the lion or the low return, constant grazing of the fox?
The mission is your lever. Find it, architect your life around it with intention, and then apply those massive leverage sprints. Be the Renaissance. Thanks for the deep dive.